You may or may not have realized this yet, but your brain is constantly making up stories. A story about who you are, who you're not, what you can or cannot achieve, what your personality is like, who you can be friends with, and so on. The limiting beliefs that you might have might just be a story your brain made up to make sense of the world and prevent you from getting into situations that are potentially deadly. These stories are powerful because they are deeply embedded in our subconscious and they influence our thoughts, emotions, and behaviors without us even realizing it. If you think about it, the whole idea of who you are, the core essence of your being, could also just be a story. My bad. Not good. It is also a story. And that's not necessarily a bad thing. It makes a lot of sense from an evolutionary perspective, right? Thousands of years ago, our cave-dwelling ancestors had to stay vigilant and fight off predators to stay alive. And to do this, their caveman brains, which isn't much different from ours by the way, formulated a system of storytelling that helped them identify potential threats and take action to avoid them. Because back in the day, if you were inside a cave tripping on mushrooms with your homies while your wives were asleep, and you heard footsteps outside, you had no option but to go out and check to make sure if it's your wife approaching or a saber-toothed tiger. Because if it was your wife who caught you doing mushrooms, you'd likely be dead meat. All I'm saying is that there's a reason, a purpose behind our brains making up these stories, and it mostly has something to do with keeping us safe and in our lane. The problem is though, you can't win in life by playing it safe all the time. In fact, to accomplish anything worthwhile, you're going to have to take risks. Because if you lean on your lizard brain to guide you through life, you're in for a whole lot of disappointment. To become good at something, like really good, you have to go beyond your comfort zone, like way beyond. You have to stop letting your lizard brain dictate what you can or cannot do with your life. It's not easy, but it's possible. Taking control of your subconscious that's been left to function in autopilot mode for most of its life is hard. And you can't really stop your brain from cooking up narratives because that is one of its main functions. It is supposed to pick up patterns. If our brains stop picking up patterns to make sense of the world the way it knows how to, we'd probably collapse and go insane. Or go insane and then collapse. Here is another problem. Our brain is fucking stupid in its default setting. Because everything we pick up from the world around us is subject to its own inherent biases. Human beings aren't rational. We are more emotional than anything else. And as good as the subconscious is in picking up patterns, it's not always very good at making sense of them. So let's say you try to pick up a new skill, say cooking for instance. After trying a few times, you realize that you're not very good at it. So you get frustrated and quit. Then you try picking up another skill, let's say math for instance, and you quit that too because it's hard. The third time you try to learn something new, your brain would have already made up a story about how picking up new skills isn't for you, and you suck at everything you do because you give up. That's what you do. Even though the two skills you tried to pick up before, cooking and math, have nothing in common, your subconscious would have already made a narrative about how you're bad at learning things. But that's a load of BS. In reality, even if you give up on 9 different skills, by the time you're making your 10th effort, you might find something that piques your interest enough for you to keep going and get better at it. So to become an expert at something, the number one thing you need to do is find something you actually want to be good at. Let me repeat that again. To become an expert at something, the number one thing you need to do is find something you actually want to be good at. And to do that, you have to rewire your brain by taking control of your thoughts. When doubt and disappointment are your constant companions, controlling how you think about yourself will change the narrative of your life. When you try to pick up a new skill, you will suck and you would want to quit. But if you can control your thoughts on the situation, you can ride out that initial feeling of frustration, anger, and disappointment and see yourself from an objective point of view. Because no matter how much you suck today, doing something repeatedly is only going to make you better, not worse. It's practically impossible to regress with practice. So if you've done the inner work and found something worthwhile, overcoming those humps of frustration and disappointment will be much easier. The second thing you must do to become an expert is quite obvious. It's practice. But not just practice mindlessly, practice with intention. Back when I was a youngling with dreams in his eyes, I was pretty deep into competitive gaming. I used to play Call of Duty Modern Warfare, which back then was said to be the biggest and most popular competitive shooter after Counter-Strike. I'm talking about 2009, 2010, during those times. So besides playing the game for hours on end, I used to watch these highlight clips of the top 1% gamers playing in the tournaments, making money, and enjoying that sweet, sweet fame. That gets you no bitches. And I used to imagine how great would it be to live a life like that, to travel the world, play video games, and make money from doing it. Back then, I made it my life's purpose to become a pro and compete in LAN events. And that's exactly what I did for the next 2 years. I practiced getting good at that game by playing 6 to hours every day, without exceptions. Sure, my parents were pissed off all the time, but I didn't care. I had found my life's purpose, and I'd be damned if I didn't chase it. So eventually, with enough practice, I became a pro, maybe even the top 1% in my country. And I did that in a fairly short period of time by practicing with intention. So my gaming sessions didn't just look like playing map after map after map, but also spending time alone to learn how to throw grenades, how to move more efficiently through the map, how to use glitches to your advantage, how to coordinate better with your team, and studying how the greats played, the top 1% in the world, by studying their videos and trying to emulate their playstyles. By practicing with intention, I was able to go past many people who had the early starter advantage. With 1000 hours of intentional practice, I was able to outperform many who had twice the playtime as me or even more. I can say the same things about my other two skills that I'm allowed to be proud of: writing and video editing. I got good at those not by just executing, but by collecting feedback and trying to continuously improve myself. Whatever skill you're trying to improve, make sure you practice that with intention. So if you're trying to become an ace chef, open up your mind and learn how great chefs think and act.
Get out my fucking way.
Don't spend all of your time in the kitchen cooking randomly.
You're pissing around with something that's not working.
If you're trying to become a math wizard, explore different ways how a problem can be solved. And if you're trying to become a great writer or a video editor, don't just write or edit videos one after another. Think, Mark, think. How can you get better with every piece of content you write or every video you edit? The third skill you need to become an expert is confidence. To become the top 1% in your field of expertise, you first have to believe that you can get there. And confidence is not just about believing in yourself, but it's about believing yourself enough to believe that others are wrong about you. Look, if you decide to go on this journey, you cannot expect it to be a cakewalk. In the path, you're going to come across many people who will doubt you, tell you your pursuit is pointless, or try to project their fears onto you. It's during those times you must possess enough confidence to believe that they're the ones who are wrong. Surprisingly, the biggest obstacle to overcome is not other people, but your inner critic that always tries to tear you down. Other people, and even your inner critic for that matter, they might be right in saying that your pursuit is meaningless and you should abandon it. But confidence is about acknowledging the fact that even though they might be right, you have the ability to prove them wrong and reach your goal. That's how you create a narrative about yourself. That's how you become a main character in your life and not stay as an NPC. And to build unshakable confidence in your abilities, you have to do two things. One, set goals and achieve them. And two, do it consistently. Consistently is the key word here, because unless you set goals you can achieve consistently, you're not going to become confident. The best way to do is by setting both short-term and long-term goals. If your long-term goal is running a half marathon for the first time, you have to set daily short-term goals that prepare you to face the challenge of the big day. So let's say that you've never run before. In that case, your short-term goals should involve some kind of running every day to build up that stamina. So if you've never run before, you should begin by running for 10 minutes daily. Once you start hitting that goal consistently, the 10 minutes you'll spend running will start to feel easy after a while. Next, you can set a goal for 20 minutes or 30 minutes and hit that goal consistently. Over time, you can switch out the time with distance and practice that with consistency. And in 3 to 6 months, you're ready for marathon day. You might not finish first in your first attempt, but as a complete beginner, just crossing the finish line is no small feat. Compete in enough marathons and in a few years, you're an expert marathon runner in your city. See how that works? This principle works for any skill you want to master. Writing, editing, sports, competitive gaming, whatever you can think of. You build up confidence by doing, not just by thinking you're confident or manifesting confidence. The fifth thing you need to do is always keep a learner's mindset. A true master is an eternal student. No matter how good you become, you must never close your mind to learning something new. When you're at the top of your game and you know that you're at the top of your game, it is very easy to become arrogant or complacent thinking that you know it all. But the truth is, becoming the top 1% is easy because the average person is average at everything that they do in their life. Most of us are so used to mediocrity from our own selves that we don't even stop to wonder if there's something we could get better at. Reaching the 1% is the easy part. The real challenge begins once you've reached there. Even at the top of your game, you'll find many people who are leagues ahead of you. Think about it. How many people do you know who have a muscular physique where they're completely shredded, have six-pack abs and such? Less than 1%, right? Let's say you train hard and become a part of the 1% population. Do you think you'd be good enough to compete in bodybuilding contests? Even if you are good enough, do you think you'll stand a chance against Mr. Olympia contestants? Against Chris Bumstead? That's why you must never assume that you know everything or know too much. With a learner's mindset, you get to approach challenges and problems with a sense of curiosity and a willingness to experiment. On the other hand, when you're too focused on staying in your lane or fear risking your reputation, you won't be as open to taking risks or trying out innovative solutions. And last but not the least, celebrate your wins. Big or small, it doesn't matter. If you've accomplished something today, you deserve to celebrate. So give yourself a pat on the back and treat yourself to something nice. Sometimes we get so obsessed with the idea of delayed gratification that we forget that we are human, that we need to feel joy and excitement that comes from achieving something. Celebrating your wins is not just about reinforcing positive behaviors, but also reminding yourself that you matter and the journey that you're on matters. And even though you may or may not reach your goal, you're sure as hell trying your best. So that's it for today, I guess. Leave a like and comment if you learned something from this video. I appreciate you all for sticking around till the end. Peace.